Imagine the softest sheets you've ever felt. Now imagine them getting even softer over time. I'm here to tell you about Boll & Branch sheets. In a recent customer survey, 96% replied that Boll & Branch sheets get softer with every wash. They're made from the rarest organic cotton and designed to get even softer over time. Try their sheets with a 30-night guarantee plus 15% off your first order with code Odyssey. So head to BOLL&branch.com today. Exclusions apply. See site for details. If you're in the market for investment-worthy bags, watches, and fine jewelry, Rebag is the answer. Rebag is a luxury resale marketplace where each piece is carefully vetted and verified by experts to ensure quality and authenticity. If you're in the market, use Rebag to buy and sell finds from the world's top brands, including Hermes, Chanel, and Cartier. Head to Rebag.com to get 10% off your first purchase with code REBAG10. Shop today at Rebag.com. That's REBAG.com and use promo code REBAG10 for 10% off your first purchase.
Welcome to the PowerCat Podcast, GoPowerCat.com's Kansas State Athletics Show. Now, here's your host, GoPowerCat publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome back in here to the Shoot Around. I am Ryan Gilbert. He is Clint Stewart. We are back. It's been a few weeks, but with football season wrapping up, me and Clint will be coming at you every week here on Go PowerCat, breaking down K-State hoops. Obviously, a lot has gone on over the last couple of weeks. Kansas State picking up some key wins, a couple losses on the resume as well. We'll be breaking down all of that and taking a look at what K-State can do moving forward. Much like the Friday walkthrough with Cole Carmody and Monty Spiller, we are also sponsored by Booth Creek Wagyu. Remember to elevate your tailgate this season with our friends from Booth Creek Wagyu. Their ranch is located just north of Manhattan and proudly raises authentic Wagyu beef from farm to table. Visit their retail locations in Manhattan or Overland Park or online at boothcreekwagyu.com. Clint, I guess let's just start off with a brief overview of the season as a whole. A trip to Las Vegas, a trip to Bahamas. A lot has gone on for this team, some good, some bad. What have your just initial thoughts been?
Yeah. Like I said, and the road games, a little bit different than the normal road games when you're, having to travel and kind of getting to play in some nice locations as well. But also could, cause some different type of distractions, being in those locations. But I thought K-State, man, they really battled. One of the things that you notice is, I think you might say, well, it's kind of starting off slow in some spots, but the guys are trying to learn each other, as they're going and playing, and I think it's similar to how we kind of started off last year, and so I think we're in a good spot as we're heading into another tough stretch here coming up, but have some really good opportunities to get some good non-conference wins and that on our resume as we head into the Big 12 season. So I think biggest thing for us, you'd like to see us cut down on our turnovers a little bit as we're heading into the next few games. I think we've had a few games where we've shot it really well, some where we haven't. And so hopefully the shooting consistency can be there, and then continue to guard. Got to continue to guard. I think that's got to be the staple on that end, is getting stops on the defensive end. So some good things and also some learnings as we're heading into the next stretch.
There, of course, is a lot of room to grow, but just with it being a relatively young team with a lot of newcomers, especially, I don't think the expectations should be too high for this team right now. You mentioned last year how it got off to a slow start before kind of hitting its stride in conference play. So, really, Clint, nobody should be hitting the panic button right now, right?
I agree. I totally agree. And there's a lot of new faces, right? And not only new faces trying to gel together, but then also trying to make sure they're playing the way that Coach Tang and the staff wants them to play. So there's a lot of learnings from the coaching staff and the players and the players, and that's what this part of the season is for as well, right? I mean, you want to make sure that, the kids get on the same page and say, okay, this is how Coach Tang wants us to play. This is how we should be playing every single night. They get on the same page with each other on, who's getting the shots and in what spots are they getting the shots and where's going to be their opportunity to help the team win. And so, that's what the non-conference season is for. And so hopefully once we hit the conference season, next it'll be hitting our stride and making some good progress forward.
Naquan Tomlin's back with the team on the bench. He hasn't played yet, but it would appear that his return is coming, probably sooner rather than later. What would a guy like Naquan Tomlin bring back to this roster? But also, without him, how do you think this team has navigated, playing without one of their stars returning from last year?
Yeah, and you have to remember, I mean, he's like I said, he's a player that brings a lot to the table. He brings a lot of the intangible things, makes plays. He's long and lengthy, so he can get up and block shots on the defensive end. I think he's really going to help us defensively. Offensively, he can step out and shoot the three. Can slash to the basket. And so when you really think about us not having, one of our as we were coming into the season, projected starters and leaders, on our team, and to start off at 5-2 and have an opportunity to come back against Miami and make that a game. And obviously in Southern California, we would have loved to have Naquan. I think he would have really helped us in that game as well. So, we're looking forward to, whenever he's available to come back and able to come back. I think it's really going to boost the team. But at the same time, right, it's another player that, got to kind of integrate into the new players that we have, right? And so there might be, a little bit of a rocky, just kind of him getting back in and filling his way to how he played last year and what the expectation is for him this year. And the guys that have been playing, it might, okay, maybe I don't get as many shots, or I need to change my role a little bit because now we have Naquan back in the lineup. So there might be a little bit of learning there, but I think it's going to be a great boost for the team overall.
With the Bahamas, and it sucks, my tan is finally starting to wear off, but with the Bahamas, those two games that were played down there, obviously a big overtime win over Providence. With the Miami game, were you more concerned about the first half struggles that this team had, or maybe more optimistic about the way that team battled and rallied around those fans in the second half of that game and gave Miami a run for its money?
Yeah, well, more optimistic. I think, the first half we didn't make shots. I mean, and really the entire game, I think we shot 4 for 28 or so from 3. And so, we didn't make shots, and Miami, it was hard for me to watch, but Nigel Pack made shots.
Right, right.
So he came out and played a fantastic game for them, and so when you put that into perspective and you look at how we battled back in the second half, and you say, okay, well, wait, if we, don't shoot 4 for 28 from 3 and we shoot, even I think for the season, we're shooting about 33%. So we shoot 33% from 3, and it's a totally different basketball game, and so, and as well, you see the kids they didn't give up, and that's the biggest thing, even though we got down and we weren't playing well in the first half, didn't make shots, they stuck together, and they continued to fight, continued to battle, and that's what got us back in the game in the second half, and then obviously had an opportunity to, get pretty close to winning it. So, sometimes the ball doesn't fall the way you want it to, but you still have to find other ways to get stops or other ways to score the basketball or get to the free throw line or what it might be. And I thought in the second half, we really picked up our intensity, and then those were good things that we can carry on moving forward.
Tuesday's game against Oral Roberts went to overtime. That's another one where you can be like, okay, hey, shouldn't be going to overtime with this team, but Jerome Tang remains undefeated in overtime games in his career at Kansas State. So that's another one of those games where you can go, hey, glass half full or, glass half empty, but depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, it's one where you would think, we're at home. And so, maybe we win by 7, 8, 10, whatever it might be. But Oral Roberts came out and they shot the ball really well, and a couple guys, when their kids had 5 threes and really shot it well and made it a game, and hats off to them. I'm sure they were really pumped up and getting an opportunity to play in the Octagon of Doom. And so they played well, so hats off to them. But it was good to see that we found a way to win, and so even when the other team probably played almost as well as they could have, our guys stuck together and found a way to win. And at this point in time in the season, a win is a win. And then in any point in time in the season, like you just win. And so it was good to see that we did that.
You're a former player, current coach. And so I want to ask you, in K-State, so they've mentioned how they practice these end game situations all the time. And that's why, they credit that perfect record in overtime to those, to that emphasis in practice. And so what do you think that really entails in practice? How do you simulate an end of game situation like that, if that makes sense?
Yeah, well, when you as coaches, you always talk about the next possession. You always talk about how important each possession is. When you get down to the overtime, it's truly each possession is so important because you can't get down, you don't want to get down 5-6 points. I mean, you want to keep it a one-score game as much as possible to give yourself a chance to win. And so, it just heightens up the intensity, the focus, the details are really important at that point in time. Executing offensively, as well as executing the game plan defensively. So now it's like, all right, overtime, let's reset and let's figure out what have they done well, right? And what they've done well, is that because we're not executing our scouting report, or is that because we are executing our scouting point and scouting report and they just made shots that we actually wanted them to take, right? And so those small details, I think, is what's really helped K-State. And if you know Coach Tang, he's really big on the details. And so you can see that just shining through our players when they get in those situations when it comes down to being in overtime and having to go figure out a way to go win.
Last year, it was pretty much Marquise Noel, Keontae Johnson in the final moments of any game. The ball was going to be in their hands. Tyler Perry on Tuesday had a big and one three-pointer near the end of that game, I believe in the end of regulation, to get that game going to overtime, right? David Gasson, he had a couple buckets in overtime against Providence. Arthur Kaluma had an and one in overtime against Oral Roberts that got them over the hump. So this team, it really does seem like there's guys, multiple guys, not just the superstars, but 4 or 5 different guys in that mix that can go out and get you those timely buckets. And it really says a lot about the depth on this team.
Yeah, it really does, and one of the guys that you didn't even mention that I've been really impressed with is Day-Day Ames. I think he's just played, fantastic as a freshman, coming in and handling the basketball and making shots, and I love his poise. I also love he has a little bit of stuff about him too, like, let's go, and I love it. And so, like I said, multiple guys stepping up and being able to step in and make plays for this team. And then when you talk about adding someone like Naquan at some point in time, that's just another guy that can make plays, and be counted upon when we have to. And so when you have that, it really keeps the other team, off balance because, now they don't know who the ball is going to go to, right? And so they can't just game plan and say, okay, we know, it's overtime situation. This person's going to get the basketball. It might be Tyler Perry. Well, it might be Arthur. Well, it might be Day-Day, or it could be anybody. And so, it might be Cam Carter, he might hit a big bucket. And so, it just keeps the other team off balance. And it's always nice when you have multiple options on the offensive end.
I'm glad you mentioned Day-Day Ames. I wanted to go there and talk about the guard position with Tyler Perry as well. And the North Texas transfer, he struggled in first halves of games. That's no secret, but he's finding ways to kick it up a notch in the waning moments of games when it matters most. So there's a lot to unpack here, and I don't know how to get it into words really. But first of all, do you think that Day-Day Ames should be playing the 1 more, to have Tyler Perry be on the 2 and let Tyler just be more of a scorer? Or do you think that this team is at its best when Tyler Perry, if he can eventually get there, be that Marquise Noel type facilitator who can also score the basketball?
Well, I think we have multiple options, and I think you really could go either way depending upon how the game flow is, and so when you have Tyler, and obviously Tyler's with the ball in hand and coming off ball screens and making shots, then you want the ball in his hand, more so than not. But Day-Day Ames brings a different dimension as well, and he's very quick with the basketball. And early on, he's been making some really good decisions, and that could free Tyler up for coming off ball screens, right, or being spotted up and being able to stretch the floor, which might not only be good for him, but him stretching the floor might help someone else get open, like Arthur being able to drive a gap. And so, it really gives us both options. I think it's kind of too early to tell, which direction might be better at this point in time. But it's nice to have both depending upon the game flow and how guys are playing, right? Because if there's a game where Tyler is struggling late, then okay, let's put the ball maybe in Day-Day's hands, and then maybe Tyler still spaces the floor because they're still going to guard. They're not going to say, oh, you're struggling, so we're going to leave you open, right? But that might open it up for someone else. Or if he's really making shots and he's coming off that ball screen, he's rolling, then hey, we got to feed him and keep him going because we know he can heat up very, very quickly, and it's nice for everybody.
Ques Glover is going to be back probably within the next month, certainly by the time conference play starts. So that adds another wrinkle into things, especially just with Ames and Perry. You were high on Ames, I'm high on him as well, but there's only so many pieces of that pie to go around. So Is Ames as the freshman, is he just going to get the short end of the stick, assuming that Glover is all that he's been said to be? Or do you believe as a coach, do you think you just got to find a way to get Ames involved?
Yeah, and I think you have to find a way to get him involved, and maybe he's not playing as many minutes, but as long as he has a distinct role for when he comes into the game and he knows what his role is and his responsibility when he's in the game, I think he can continue to play well and then keep his confidence high because, as we've seen, it can be anybody's number could be called, and you want to make sure that he's confident when his number is called to play well, play to his best of his ability, and be able to produce. So, like I said, Quez Glover, from what we know, is a fantastic player, and we're excited to get him on the court. As soon as we can, and then like I said, even adding back in Naquan. But I think when you talk about Day being a freshman, as far as what he's done so far in these first 7 games, I tell you, I've definitely been impressed, and really impressed with how he's played and his poise and handling himself, handling the basketball, But anytime you can add, some older guys that have already kind of been through the fire and things, especially as we start heading into Big 12 play, after the first of the year, it's only going to make us better.
Not that RJ Jones and Macaleb Rich haven't been good, because they've shown a lot of flashes this year, but just with Ames specifically, I've just been so impressed with his maturity. He's very poised on the court, especially as a guard. It's a big transition to make, playing in AAU games to now playing in, basically K-State's played Power 5 opponents here right off the bat. And so he hasn't missed a beat. And so I don't want to take away from anything those other 2 freshmen have done, but Ames has just been tremendous. Clint will break down Rich and Jones here after a quick break here on the Friday Shoot Around.
GoPowerCat.com's PowerCat podcast continues after this short break.
Picture this nightmare scenario. You're hosting friends for the big game. It's neck and neck in the fourth quarter, and suddenly you realize you're out of drinks. You start to sweat. Your friends start to turn on you. You're forced to go on a last-second drink run and end up missing the game-winning touchdown while in line. Terrifying, isn't it? Luckily, you can avoid the drama with Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery. With Drizzly, you can shop a huge selection of beer, wine, and spirits, then get them delivered right to your watch party. Compare prices across multiple stores in your area, find the best deals on game day drinks, and get back to armchair quarterbacking from, you guessed it, your armchair. Download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com today. Must be 21 plus, not available in all locations.
Welcome back to the PowerCat podcast.
Welcome back in here to the Friday Shoot Around. I am Ryan Gilbert. He is Clint Stewart. We're sponsored by Booth Creek Wagyu. As always, be sure to check them out whenever you can. Clint, with the freshman, we touched on Day Ames and all the good that he's done. There's certainly been some growing pains for RJ Jones and Macaleb Rich. I guess let's just start with RJ Jones. How do you assess his play and how he's progressing?
Yeah, and I think he's along the lines where probably most freshmen would kind of be at, right? I mean, he's still trying to figure out a little bit of, kind of where he's going to get the ball, where he's going to get shots. But he's been shooting it actually pretty well. I think he's 9 for 23 from 3. And so, he's shooting at 40% from 3, which is really good because he is a good shooter, for us and be able to space the floor. And I think as time goes on, he'll just become more and more comfortable. The only thing about it is we know when you get into Big 12, it becomes a bloodbath, and so, he just has to continue to gain his confidence and understand what the coaches want him to do. When he gets out there, play as hard as he can, be lengthy, be long, defend, and make open shots. And those are things that he can do.
Macaleb Rich?
Macaleb, man, he's a man child, and we've seen flashes of his man child ability, when he gets out there, he just brings I feel like he brings a toughness. He's physical. Obviously, he can jump out the wazoo. I mean, I'm kind of wondering, I don't know what his vertical is, but I think we need to go ahead and get that on the charts of, is he touching the top of the backboard or what? Because he's just fun to watch, and like I said, he just has to learn, just get acclimated to the college game a little bit more and kind of learn, what he can do that's really well to help us succeed. And then, like I said, we've seen him in flashes, when he gets underneath the basket, I mean, just bullies the ball. He gets into bully mode, and he's physical, which is really good, But I think as the season goes on, some of the things he's gonna have to just work on is just his footwork and being able to really like wipe and maybe drive, spin back, pump fake, and things of that nature. Just given kind of his size, and as we move into the Big 12, but. As a freshman, like I said, for him, it's all gravy, man. Just learn, keep learning, get out there, play as hard as you can. And so far, I think he's been doing a good job.
Especially in a system like this, the coaches that he's going to be surrounded by, he's got the athleticism and all those other things are going to come, right?
Yep, that's correct. Yep, that's it.
Jones and Rich and Ames, of course, have played minutes over Dorian Finister, and then sort of down low in the post, Taj Manning hasn't been involved, sat out the last couple of games for Kansas State. Do you think that the expectations on those two players were just a little too high this year? I mean, there's only, like I said earlier, there's only so many pieces of that pie to go around.
Yeah, you have to go grab a piece of the pie, and that starts every single day in practice. And I don't know, what's going on obviously in practice, but I hope they're not discouraged. I hope they're encouraged in knowing that, the coaches obviously are going to play the guys that they think should be playing and then the best players that are putting it every single day in practice. And then obviously they got to go out there and do it on the floor in the game time. So the biggest thing, though, is when it comes to a basketball team is you need everybody locked in. And so if you're someone like Dorian or someone like Taj, whether you're getting the minutes that you think you might, want or deserve or not, there's still a role for you on the team, and your job, for one, is to get better every single day, come in with the right attitude to do that, because that's how you're going to earn your minutes, and two, push those other players around you. So and when you're trying to push other players around you, that's also how you can try to step up and move up that pecking order, right? And so you just have to have the right attitude every single day, and hopefully those guys are doing that, and they're continuing to improve and get better. And who knows, you always got to be ready, when it comes to college basketball or really any sport. You never know when your number is going to be called due to, injuries or for unforeseen things. And so you always have to stay ready, and then just know when coach calls your number, it's time to go out there and produce. So hopefully they're locked in on that.
So I'm curious, you're the coach, you're the former coach, I should say, of K-State commit David Castillo. Who on this roster through 7 games has reminded you the most of Castillo?
Oh, man. I've known David since he was 3-4 years old and seen him play for a long time. Man,
I would go with Day personally.
The way Day plays, and Day, to me, in watching Day, he looks very free, and when he's playing, and then and brings a lot of energy with the basketball, and is aggressive in spots. Obviously, can handle the basketball really well. He's really, to me, I've been really impressed with him shooting it. I think he's really shot it, better than what I kind of expected, and so. I would agree, and I'd say as well, and David, I know David is obviously at Sunrise, and he's playing really well. Actually played just the other night and got a chance to watch him, but he's been playing really well. He's excited to get up there to K-State and excited to play with obviously the younger guys that he knows will be there, next year, and he's ready to get going there. So he has to finish up this 1 year, but he's excited to get up there with those guys and keep it going.
Jerome Tang lets his guards play with a lot of freedom. That's no secret. And so I think we can't stress this enough, that this is also a part of that learning curve, this team getting better over time, something that's not going to happen overnight. There's many aspects of getting better, but also as a point guard, as a shooting guard, whoever that may be, with the guards, creating those or committing those turnovers, making those mistakes, maybe not taking the open shot or taking too many shots right. That's all just going to come with repetition, especially when you're facing such quality opponent that K-State has had. So we can't state that enough, right, Clint? That's just something, that's another part of this learning process early on in the season.
Yeah, it definitely is. And Tang preaches, his players playing with joy and freedom. And sometimes, you as a coach, the the players have to fill that out, and they have to learn, and you have to let them learn so then they can be better in understanding how to play that way. And so I think that's what you're seeing, obviously here early on is Tang is letting them learn, and he knows that, we're going to reap the benefits of that, later as we move into the Big 12 season, and our players are loose, they're ready to play, and they're playing with joy, they're playing with freedom, because when they have that kind of confidence, I think then it just helps them in the game of making shots. Like they believe in it, right? And they're not worried about, if I miss this shot, is coach going to take me out? If I make this turnover, is coach going to take me out? We talk about as coaches, most coaches like aggressive turnovers. Like if you're trying to make a play and you make a turnover and it's an aggressive turnover and maybe you throw it out of bounds because you got downhill and the big circled under and you try to hit the big and it just was a little bit off and it goes out of bounds. Those are the plays we you want kids to try to make versus just being up top and being lazy with the basketball, right? And so as you see, Tang wants his team, getting downhill, trying to make aggressive turnovers, and you can live with those. Just can't live with the lackadaisical ones or the ones where you're just not locked in and not detailed, right? And so the more they play with joy and freedom early on now, I think it's just going to benefit us as we move into the Big 12 season.
I'm not sure if you saw Jerome Tang's comments about Arthur Kaluma maybe after the second or third game of the year, said that he needed to buy in more. A little vague about it. That's all he said. Left us all wondering a little bit. But since then, Tang has stated that his buy-in has came. Kaluma certainly appears to be playing, a bit better now than he was to start the season. I think he's probably letting the game come to him compared to those first few games, Clint.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think that's what Tang was alluding to is the don't press, and I Arthur coming in as a transfer and how well he played at Creighton and obviously coming in with, a lot of expectation, and so, I'm sure for even for him, it's probably like, okay, I got to come in and I need to impress and I need to do these things. And that's what I think we kind of felt he's just pressing a little bit. Right. And Tang was, alluding to, hey, let it come. We know you're a great player. We know that. We want you playing your game and don't get out of your game, because when you get out of your game, that's usually when you don't, you're not playing your best. Right. And so as you've seen lately, it feels like he's been letting it come and he's been getting to spots where he can score the basketball, but making good decisions. And of course, he has the ability to step out and shoot it as well. And so you're just going to make sure, you're shooting good shots and not just forcing shots up.
Kaluma's been really good, but he's also been a little inconsistent in the beginning half of the year. But overall, he's been fine. But that, beginning portion of the year did happen. Tyler Perry, we mentioned his first half struggles. Those have been a little frustrating, right? So this leads me to my point about Cam Carter. Of all the players, all the preseason expectations, especially for these stars on the team, in my opinion, Carter's really the one that has lived up to all of those expectations. He's scoring the ball. He's still playing solid defense, facilitating. I think he had a double-double, his first career double-double on Tuesday against Oral Roberts. And so if there's one MVP through 7 games, in my mind, it's Cam Carter.
Yeah, and then he's been making shots from the outside. He's been aggressive. He's been able to drive the basketball at the rim as well and get to the free throw line. And so it's been really good to see. I think the Oral Roberts game, he started off really hot for us, and had I don't know 7, 8, maybe 11 points like early on, and 11 points. Yeah. 5
minutes. Yeah.
Exactly. There you go. So, he's been great. And, it's been good to just see him take that step forward. And I'm sure, he's looking around and said, hey, I've been here, and so he knows the expectation from Tang. And, he knows it's just the opportunity now to step up and lead, not only on the offensive end, but I think with just being vocal and then also guarding on the defensive end. And so it's been good to see, him just take that step forward and hopefully he can continue to play well as we move on down the season.
So K-State played against USC in Vegas. You get Providence and Miami in the Bahamas. So there hasn't been a marquee game inside of Bramlage Coliseum yet. Villanova comes to town early next week. I guess that's kind of a loaded question here, but how much can you learn about yourself? But also, this is going to be the first time that the Octagon and Doom will be rocking all year long.
Yeah. It's a big game, and you'll get a chance to see kind of where we're at against, obviously a really good team. I'm glad we're playing them at our place. I think it'll be a packed house. It'll be a lot of fun, good atmosphere, and so It's the Big 12 against the Big East, and we got to represent the Big 12. And so it'll be a good game. I think we're going to have to come out and hopefully we can jump on them early and not have to play from behind, especially when you think about us having, being at the home court advantage and having the crowd, you want the crowd in it early, right? And so we can come out and jump on them early and make them play catch up, and then they're fighting against the crowd. I think that'll be really good for us. So we just got to be ready, got to be relaxed, play free, have fun, and obviously got to make some shots early as well.
Any concerns with the freshmen, Jones, Ames, or Rich, or even a guy like Perry, who's never played at a Power 5 atmosphere at home before? Is there any concerns with those guys maybe coming out emotionally drunk from the opening tip?
Yeah, and there could be. I mean, for them, I'm sure that's going to, feel like and is, the biggest game they played, obviously in a K-State uniform so far. And so, but you hope that they can calm their nerves early. And a lot of times that can happen on the defensive end. Like, you might be a little bit more nervous on the offensive end when you're shooting the basketball, maybe rushing shots. I thought kind of similar to when we played USC to Southern California, I thought we were kind of rushing, shots first game of the season and then a little nerves and things. And so, but on the defensive end, that's really where you can get calmed down, just lock into the game plan and guarding, and so hopefully they can do that. One thing about Perry, didn't even mention, but him getting acclimated to Coach Tang and how Coach Tang, wants to play. He comes from a system at North Texas that I believe was like the lowest possession per game system, and he was really efficient, right? So it's a lot more slow the ball down, walk it up, run our sets, and then kind of score at the end of the shot clock. And he played tremendously in that system. And now he's in a different system where it's like, hey, we want you pushing the basketball and playing faster and get more possessions, and so he has to kind of change his mindset and what it's been over the last year or 2 years, to a different system. And so I think we kind of have seen a little bit of those struggles, and you just hope he just continues to get more and more comfortable in Tang's system and in how Tang wants him to play. And so hopefully, like I said, we'll see that over the next few games and over into the Big 12 season. So, it's different. The Villanova game, it's going to be fast early, it's going to be up and down. And we just want to settle in and play our game.
Clint, we'll wrap it up with this. If we just take a step back after 7 games here, relative to your expectations before the season, are you satisfied? Are you unhappy? Is this where you thought this team would be? How do you feel after these first 7 games?
Yeah, I think it's been good, and like I said, we're 5-2, and played Miami really, really tough. The USC game right out the gate, I thought it was a tough game, a really tough matchup, and their freshmen played really well, their guards, and so I think we're sitting at a good spot. I think for us, you'd like to see us limit our turnovers a little bit, down. And if we can do that, shoot the ball maybe a little bit better. Right now we're shooting about 33% from 3, which isn't bad, but we've taken, a lot. We take a lot of outside shots, so you want to be able to knock those down. When we continue to do that, I think we'll be great. So I like where we're at, but it's a tough stretch coming. I think we're going to know exactly, where we are as we head into the Big 12 season, as we look at the Villanova game. I think we have Wichita State, we have Nebraska, and so, a lot of Power 5 schools right here, back to back, and so got to get ready to go play.
Clint, as always, appreciate your time, and hopefully we don't have a month-long hiatus from show to show moving forward.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. Always love doing it. It's good.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be back very soon here on the Friday Shoot Around. Real quick, if you're not subscribing to Go Power Cat, be sure to do so. We just had a Black Friday sale. You did miss out on that, but there's still never been a better time to be a member at Go Power Cat. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, be sure you're liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. But like I said, hopefully we'll be back soon. Quicker than a month break we had last time here on the Friday Shoot Around.
Thank you for listening to the Power Cat Podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
The PGA Tour returns to CBS for another season on a special day and time, this Friday at 5 Eastern, with defending champion Max Homa part of an outstanding field at the Farmers Insurance Open. Our live coverage begins Friday at 5 Eastern and continues Saturday at 4 on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.